Every time India debates the death penalty, the rhetoric is shrill and violent, but lacking in facts. Facts on how the death penalty actually works in India, on prisoners, their trials, their backgrounds. But now, for the first time, a comprehensive report seeks to examine the lives of those on death row in India. In 24 hours this week, we bring you the Death Penalty Project. The National Law School in Delhi. Students at this university were given the option to work for a unique project, part of the Death Penalty Center.
Under the center, we have the Death Penalty Research Project and the Death Penalty Litigation Clinic. So we started with the research project in June 2013. And the idea was to develop a socioeconomic profile of who gets the death penalty in India and understand the experience of India's death row prisoners with the criminal justice system.
Here's the reason why the project assumes such significance. India's data on death row prisoners is abysmal. For instance, when the researchers tried to establish how many convicts on death row have been hung since independence, the figure they were given by all the jails that had gallows added up to 772. A figure dramatically contradicted by a Law Commission report in 1965, which shows that between 1953 to 63, 1,400 people were hung.
I remember Anup had come to our class. We were in first year, then Aradhana and I. He introduced the idea to us. He told that there's almost no data about how the extreme penalty is being administered in our country.
So the first thing that shocked me was, oh, we don't have any data on death penalty. And I remember that the first thing he had told us about how we would be going to prisons, interviewing, prisoners. And for me, I thought there was a chance of probably knowing the other side of the story, because when I'm sitting in class, they're just names, state versus X.
In 2013, a core team of 11 students led by Professor Anup Surendranath, director of the Death Penalty Center, began to travel across India to find both hard data and conduct a qualitative study on what it means to be on death row in India. The project is based on interviews conducted between 2013 to 2015. During this time, 385 prisoners were sentenced to death across India. 12 of these prisoners, all from Tamil Nadu, could not be interviewed as the state refused access to them. And so 373 prisoners form a part of this study.
The brief that was given to us was that it's the socio-economic profiling of the death row prisoners in India. And we'd been told that that had never happened before. Now, as Aradhana said, that was really surprising to a lot of us, that these are individuals that the state thinks don't have a right to live anymore. And we don't have any data about how they are living, things like that. So basically how the profiling was supposed to be done was in three layers, three steps. So one was talking to the prisoner himself, one was talking to the family of the prisoner, and third was talking to the defense lawyer of the prisoner at the trial court level. So basically for the prisoner questionnaire, you also had a specific section on what do you do, how do you spend your time in jail, things like that. To the family, the questions were more like how involved were you in the case proceedings, how did you arrange for the money. To the lawyer, the questions were, did you ever go meet the prisoner? How often did you talk to him?
You actually had to ask a question to the lawyer saying, did you go meet the prisoner?
Yes.
And the answers are fascinating. Like some lawyers took pride in the fact that why should we go meet the prisoner? We just need the case file.
Some of them would say, why would we go meet a death penalty prisoner?
Yeah.
He's been given death row.
We have created this illusion of a fair trial, and it takes one field trip to figure that out. You go talk to the prisoner will tell you things like, I don't know what's going on in my case, the lawyer never spoke to me. Anytime I spoke to the lawyer would just be like, sab theek ho jayega, don't worry.
Actually, all the three of us and a lot of others as well have done family interviews as well. So we had a very good idea of how poor and marginalized these people were. And when you go, you try to trace these families in these villages. That in itself is a task. And once you eventually get down to talking to those people, I think all of us have had these experiences which have literally been life-changing for many of us.
To add on to that, I would say that I remember a frequent request whenever we would try contacting the families. They would ask us to come on Sunday after 6 p.m. Why? Because meeting us, they want to meet us. They want to tell their stories. And many of them say it's the first time someone has come to ask them their story. But that I would always observe that Sunday, that Saturday, or that after 6 p.m. because they can't afford to lose a day's wage. I've had, like, I remember one of the researchers having to go onto the field where they are working and interview him while they're working, because for them that day's wage meant probably a family starving at home.
In fact, of the 209 economically vulnerable prisoners, 63.2% were either primary or sole earners in their family, and 74% of all death row prisoners are economically vulnerable.